This week on LensVid Talk, super powerful lights, high-priced bungee cords, and Canon returns with the PowerShot. Stick around.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Lou.
Hi, Ida.
Hi. And today we're doing LensVid Talk number 32. And this is recorded just after the previous one. Previous one was 31, and we recorded it, and we're recording it, this one as well, at the 20th of February 2025. There are going to be a lot of announcements next week. So this is going to be aired in about 2 weeks. So between now and when this is going to be aired, there are going to be quite a lot of announcements from both Sony, Sigma, and probably Zeiss as well, and maybe a few other companies. I don't know about Canon. All of them are going to CP+, the expo in Japan, the big mostly photography expo, but probably some video as well. And so all the announcements that are going to come before that are going to be in LensVid Talk, the next one, basically. That's all I wanted to say. Let's start with two things that we're currently reviewing, in the process of reviewing. So the first one is the Godox AT200 this thing is, we're actually using it right now as part of the setup in here. This is basically I wouldn't call it exactly a tube light, but it's
Inflatable tube, right?
It's a cylinder, a thick cylinder inflatable light, 200 watt bicolor. It's pretty great. The color accuracy, the light itself is great. You will see in the review. What I don't really care for is the inflation, the way that you inflate it, basically. And the second thing that I am not a big fan of is the connector. It's kind of a strange connector. I'll talk about this in the review. But it's an interesting option. And if you want something which is both inflatable, it can get into a pretty small size, and the light itself is pretty soft. We're using it again in here to add some light to the background. We had some issues. We have a TV in here, and it reflected some light on the TV when we put it like from the front. But this is the setup, so not much that we can do about it. So that's the first product that we are reviewing. The second one is something that you're currently starting to test. Actually, I just gave it to you, so this one. You're blocking the name, but this is the Hollyland Lark
There we go.
M2S. We reviewed the M2. I think Art reviewed the original one, or the first one, and exactly like a show girl or whatever. This one, the special thing about it, it has some interesting features, but I think that the most interesting thing is the actual design, where you have a very small mic in the front, and the clip with all the battery and all the other stuff is in the back. You don't see it. It's usually behind the shirt or whatever it is that you're wearing it on. So yeah. So you're going to play with it and let us know what you think about it. Let's start with some news. And the first one is something that was announced today. Again, we're recording this on the 20th. This is by Canon. And it's been a while since we heard anything from Canon. And this is the PowerShot V1.
All right.
You've seen this?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So this is really new. Again, just a couple of hours ago. This is a compact camera with a fairly large sensor. The sensor is about basically a micro four third.
Okay.
But micro four thirds are typically 4:3 aspect ratio, and this is a 3:2. So it's basically a micro four thirds but wider.
Okay.
But you can think about it as a four micro four thirds sensor. It's 22 megapixel. It's very light, 380 grams, something like that. Not really heavy. Flip screen. No EVF or internal flash. So it's basically like, you can think of it, you can shoot stills for it, but it's, I would say, more for like vloggers and like selfies, stuff like that, mostly. It has a 16 to 50 millimeter f 2.8 to f 4.5 lens. Okay. I mean, it's good. 4K 60 video. What else? It has something really interesting. It says a 3-stop ND built-in ND filter, which is really cool. I want more of this in other cameras.
This is how they're going to keep pocket cameras alive.
I don't know
Pocket
if just
camera-
this, but
But a pocket camera is thicker than a smartphone.
Yeah.
Therefore, it should be able to have either an electronic ND or some image stabilization that a smartphone cannot do, since it has more space to move around in. Maybe the ND is a better idea, but these pocket cameras, which should have really died by now, so few are being sold, but we see these resurgence of them every once in a while. If they can fit features that can't fit into smartphones, then they'll keep coming back.
I agree. It needs to have some advantage over smartphones, and the image quality is no longer, I think, the differentiating factor, because smartphones, especially if you're looking at the higher end ones, I don't know, the iPhone 16 or a Pro or whatever, I'm using the Pixel 8, there is 9 now, and Samsung has the Galaxy S25 Ultra recently that we talked about. All these ones are very, very quality shooting cameras, basically.
Yeah, but their sensors are still really small. Yeah. It's the computational photography also that is doing that. So if they can just get decent computational photography, we don't need the full look, but some capability in a pocket camera. But still, I think people would prefer.
The problem is that Canon, Sony, and Nikon are not usually very computationally oriented companies.
Right.
They should be, or at least buy a third part, an outsource the computational to a different company.
Is it so different than having a JPEG with your RAW, though? I mean, when you think about it, there are decisions being made in that JPEG as well.
The only way I'm thinking about this is that the company Japan is much more hardware oriented than software. It has always been that way. US, for example, is, I wouldn't say the other way around, but it's a lot especially in Silicon Valley, it's very software oriented. Israel is the same, by the way. Europe, I'm not sure. It's somewhere in between, but there are not a lot of European camera manufacturers. I mean, you have Leica and Zeiss to a degree. Not really, but mostly Leica. So I know, but what else does it have? It has a tele-light, which is cool. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be, currently at least, it's only going to be sold in Asia. And I would assume mostly Japan and maybe China are the big markets. We talked about how China is booming in camera sales.
Right.
So that can be really interesting.
And the Insta cameras are also very popular in Asia, so that's probably a good place to test.
No, Japan in general is very strong when it comes to compact cameras, but I'm assuming this will also be pretty successful in China. $1,000, that's going to be the price. That's expensive?
I mean, I think I paid 600, around 600 for my last PowerShot, which I got in 2010, 2011.
Which one was that?
I don't remember. It was the S something.
This one, no, but it's a price that makes sense. I would like an APS-C sensor on this. That's the only drawback that I'm seeing.
An even bigger, a little bigger sensor.
Yeah. I keep saying this. Nikon had the Coolpix A back when in 2014, 15, something like that. I took it to New York and I enjoyed the hell out of it. Yeah. It was such a fun camera. I want a new version of that.
Yeah.
Hopefully for Sony, but
I enjoyed a Coolpix one time also. It was fantastic.
You play with that camera?
It might have been an older one. Which model was this?
No, there was only one. Coolpix A.
Oh. I know it was a Coolpix and it had a...
no, there were a lot of Coolpix cameras, but specifically the A was an APS-C camera.
No.
And that was fantastic. Yeah. It has an APS-C sensor and a fixed lens. Wow. I think a 28 or something like that. Wow. It was so fun. Just, I walked with that and with a D7200 with a long lens, I think 200 millimeter or 7200 f4, something like that. And one of them was for longer telephoto and the other was for wide. And sometimes I just didn't take the big one and just took the small one and just, street photography. It was so much fun. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. So I don't know, maybe it was New York, but that's a different story. But anyway, this one is at the moment, at least, only in Asia, which is a shame, but maybe it will come to other parts of the world. Sirui has a new Kickstarter project with 3 new lenses, a new, I think, line. It's called Vision Prime 1. So that's the name. These are a trio of T1.4 lenses, all manual focus, all full frame, 270-degree focus throw, 600 grams, so fairly lightish, I know. ERF, Z, and L mounts, which are user interchangeable, so that's cool. What else? I think the minimum focus is like 26, 30, and 43 centimeters. Like for the first is 24, the second 35 and 50. 67 millimeter front filter. I don't know if I mentioned that, and $550 per lens for the Kickstarter. It's going to be like I think $100 more once it's really available on the market. So pretty cool. They've been really playing it hard, Sirui, I think, in the cine market, and they have some still lenses as well. So really interesting. I'm not sure if we will get a chance to play with them. You have plans to go to NAB this year, so maybe we'll talk to them and see if we can get a connection. Yeah, that would be nice. Do you remember, we've been to IBC last year, do you remember Anton Bauer EDEN power generator? How would you call it? Power station?
Yeah, it's a power station.
Yeah, okay. So it's a 2.5 kilowatt power station. It's not like 2.5 kilowatt is not gigantic.
Okay.
I have, I think, 3 kilowatt power station at home, which was it was less expensive than this one. This is $3,500, so not exactly cheap. It's basically competing with stuff like the EcoFlow and the Blue Yeti and stuff like that, but it's much more, at least on paper, robust. It's supposed to be like IP65, very low noise levels, so 30 decibels. My Blue Yeti is very it's very noisy. You can really hear the sound levels of it. If you're anywhere near it, it's you hear it has a power brick, and the power brick has
like
pretty fans that are pretty noisy. The new version, from what I understand, is far less noisy. So take it for what it is. It has 4 USB-Cs and 2 AC. I think it also had DC, but 2 ACs. What else? You can daisy chain them, so that's important. And it's about 29 kilograms, so that's pretty heavy. Again, I'm not sure how much mine weighs. Probably less. I don't know. But again, that's, if you're going on production, you want something rugged, that's cool. And I'm sure that you will be able to rent them at some rental houses. So that's a good option. What else do we have? Edelkrone has, I think it's basically an update. I'm not sure how to classify this. It's called the motion. It's basically motion control update, or focus for motion controls for the spinning tables. Okay. So basically, it goes like this. They have their ecosystem with all their, like, the motor and the head.
It's like a crane.
You can, again, they have the whole ecosystem. Yeah. You can use it with all sorts of components. They have a lot of them. But in the video that I've seen, you see like a spinning table. They have a couple of those with different sizes of the spinner plate. And you get to have the motion tracking. On the previous lens we talked about the motion tracking on the new DJI gimbals. So I'm not sure if this works exactly the same way, but it's supposed to be able to very accurately track something that spins around and can create something that is pretty interesting. So it can move like with the full focus smaller. You can use it, I think, with the cine lenses. So it's an interesting combination. I didn't try it, so I can't really say if it's as good as they claim it. Some of the Edelkrone is a strange company. Some of their stuff is like really good and useful. Some of their stuff is like not fully baked, I would say.
How did that last tripod? It was like, it wasn't really a tripod. It was like a folding.
It was a motorized tripod.
It was motorized?
Yeah, the legs were moving up and down.
Ah, right.
Maybe you're talking
That was
about
very
something
strange.
else. I don't know.
There
but-
was something also that folded. It just kind of, it was not a usual tripod, but it was basically like almost like a gooseneck that you just.
No, there
put
was a
into
jib. There is a tripod and a jib. So we have the first generation of the jib. They have a newer generation, and there is a bigger one now. And there is a new, relatively new tripod with motorized legs that can either move like this.
I thought that was so strange.
Yeah. It's another
niche.
level of, it's
As
a
well.
niche for sure. It's very expensive, but it's like, it goes like this. You know, you can control each leg, and it can go up and down, obviously. And it can be used with the jib and the motorized head. So it's a whole ecosystem. How well this whole ecosystem works, again, I didn't try these specific modules. We have a couple of sliders and the rotating thing from and one of the moving robot, which is like, I'm not a big fan of that one, but we actually bought all of them, I think, with our own money. We didn't get it from Edelkrone. Godox says we did a Godox in the previous video, and we have a Godox new Godox products, 2 products in this one as well. This one is, or these ones are the P1200R and P600R Pros. So the 600, 1200, the original ones have been announced, I think, a year and something ago, and these ones are Pros. What makes them pro? Well, first of all, is the stronger one is 1300 watt RGB, so it's like it's a panel, obviously, and it's IP65, so you can use it outdoors in the rain, and no problem. It goes from 1800K, I think, to 10,000. So.
That's
really
pretty good.
Yeah, the CCT is like really wide. Again, it's RGB, if I remember correctly. It's stackable, so you can, well, sort of stackable. You could put them in like
A grid formation.
yeah,
or something.
which will be like think about it,
Really
like
bright.
Yeah, we're going to talk. There are going to be a lot of lights in this one. So this is another thing. And what else? It has all the CRMX and all the other, like, obviously it's a professional light. It's less noisy. This is at least what they're claiming. I'm not sure by how much. In terms of pricing, the 600 is 2,350, and the 1,200 is expensive, as you would expect. It's $5,300. Yeah, it's an expensive professional light. Again, I would assume this was either for larger productions or for rental houses. This is where I would probably see this. Now we have 2. If you thought that this was powerful, wait for the next one. These ones are unbelievable.
When you don't just need to overpower the sun, but the entire universe.
Yes, something like that. No, that's nuts. So the first one is Aputure's XT52. So this is a new Storm series light, and this is the most powerful one ever from Aputure. 5,200 watt light, bicolor. From 2,500 to 10,000. The head itself, only the head, weighs 29 kilograms, so almost 30 kilograms, with another 13 kilograms for the controller, the box. There is no pricing, not a lot of info at the moment. It's going to be shown, I think, at one of the next expos. You're probably going to see it in NAB if you're going. So that will be interesting. Again, I don't know what to say. The only thing I can say about this is that this will probably not work with regular household power.
I was going to say, you short your entire house, you blow your fuses
no,
with this
you
thing.
can't. I think here in Israel, in Europe, you can go up to, I think, close to 3,000, something like that. Anything beyond that will blow the fuse. So I'm not sure, either a generator or, I don't know. So, there are ways of I mean, in the past, like Hollywood level stuff used HMIs and stuff like that, and it was much more like power hungry than this, I'm assuming. So they had ways of powering this, and I'm sure that if you talk to like professional gaffers, like high-end gaffers, they know how to work with these like power consumptions. But it's not like for this studio, I don't have a normal way of powering this, as far as I can tell. So it's not for us.
Okay.
And the Nanlite has basically the answer for this from their part. It's called the Evoke 5000 B, and this is again a 5,000 watt COB. It's stormproof, IP66, bicolor, and I think that for this one the output is at 5 meters. We usually, if you remember correctly, we test at 1 meter. Usually lights are tested at 1 meter. Sometimes the more powerful ones are tested at 3 meters. This one is tested at 5 meters, and it's 22,000 lux. We have a lot of lights which are pretty capable, which produce this amount of light from 1 meter. And it's like the fallout is square of the distance. So this is a huge amount. It will be interesting to see how much power it puts out in 1 meter. It could be, I don't know, 500,000 lux. I wouldn't be surprised, maybe even more. So that's kind of crazy. It's going to be shown at the BCS Expo, maybe the Aputure as well. The official price is about $15,000. I've seen it in a discount already pre-order on B&H, I think for like $1,200 or something like that. Not sure why they are discounting something which is just out of the gate, but again, I know. It has a Fresnel, which the Fresnel itself costs $2,500. So the Fresnel itself costs more than most lights. Kind of nuts. Again, probably rental houses, stuff like that, but apparently there is an option. I would not be surprised if we were going to see a Godox version of a 5K watt light very, very soon. Like probably at least a prototype in NAB. Makes sense. Away from lighting, one before the last, this is called Bun-G-Ring.
Yep.
So Bun-G-Ring, basically.
Yep, a play off of bungee cord, right?
Exactly. So this actually uses bungee cords. So this is basically a square filter holder. I wouldn't. How would you describe it?
Square and rectangular too, like
Yeah.
So
rectangular.
It'll basically kind of it's tightened around the corners of your of like a, let's say, an ND filter that you have in front of the lens, and it's got just enough tension on it that it just holds it right on the front of the lens.
Yeah.
And it's surprisingly simple.
I agree.
People have probably been doing this already
In some sort of makeshift way. So this is like a more like commercial version of that.
Yeah.
The only thing that I'm not a fan of is the price.
It does seem a little high for bungee cords.
Yeah, it's $350. Now, it does come, to be fair, it does come with a lot of like adapters. I'll show it if I find it on the screen. So you have all sorts of adapters that will fit all sorts of, I'm assuming, lenses. I don't know. I don't get why it's so expensive because, as you said, just bungee cords, what's the problem? So I'm assuming because it comes with all these options, I would just, at least have an option to buy one that fits whatever it is that you want, and then don't pay $350 for a bunch of bungee cords and an adapter. But yeah, it is what it is. From reading some of the comments on some news websites that published it, I think that some people are kind of liking this idea.
Yeah.
So
Could be that it's a little extra money to buy it, but what if it saves you a lot because now you can use much cheaper plain NDs. You won't have to use variable. I mean, this is not for a variable ND. This is for straight NDs.
Yeah.
For a quarter mist, whatever it is, and you just.
I'm thinking that my only issue with this is why would you use this versus a matte box? There are small matte boxes.
So it's not really replacing a matte box, but it's removing the need for a matte box.
Yeah, but there are.
So you want a much lighter kit, and this is going to have maybe less wind resistance, at least around the outside of the.
I don't think the wind resistance is usually the issue.
If you're flying a drone, maybe, but.
No, but it's a matte box.
This is probably
it's not relevant. Yeah, no.
They have matte boxes that are designed to go on a drone.
Oh, the bigger ones. Okay.
They have so air can pass through it, so it doesn't turn into a sail.
I didn't think about this. Okay, that's an option.
Could be an advantage for fast
I'm thinking
cameras.
This is more of a stuff that you throw in your bag, so you will always have an option if you want to take a really small kit.
Yes, something that can take some hits too, because it's bungee cords.
So it won't, like, if you're taking like a small bag and you still want to carry it.
Because I don't like the way most filters pack down. They've got their own carrying case. It takes up a lot of space. This is like nothing.
Okay. So it's an option.
Yeah.
That's the point. And the last one, we saved the best for last. Media Division, our friend Nicholas, who we interviewed in IBC 2023, was one of the most enjoyable interviews that I've had in a long time. This guy is really amazing in terms of his knowledge, and he's really passionate about basically cinematography and gear. He has, how long is it? 2 hours? Something like that?
It's a long one, yeah.
Yeah. Usually his videos are quite long, but this one is like really out there. So I think it's about 2 hour video, which is called a special sauce. I think he talked to me about this like a long time ago.
Magic sauce.
Magic sauce, exactly. So it's basically, maybe you describe what the video is about. You watch the entire thing or just part
Almost
of it?
the entire thing, yeah. It's kind of like a greatest hits, almost like a best of a lot of his other mock-ups. Is that the right expression? Where he takes a scene from a movie, a really cool cinematic scene, and then tries to duplicate it and come as close to it as possible without having to spend. This is the part I like, without having to spend tons of money. And I like how he's been able to show how accessible doing this is or can be. You don't need a Hollywood soundstage and tons of money to get this done sometimes. So, and in this one, he kind of goes through a lot of the different mock-ups that he's done over the last few years. But he introduces a new one for this
The Silence
video,
of the Lambs.
which is The Sounds of the Lambs, and his performance is fantastic. He's like...
Yeah, he's both an actor and both in front of the camera and behind the camera, and but I think that the topic of this entire video,
what is cinematic?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is an interesting question. What makes us, it's a psychological question more than anything else. What makes us, when we're looking at a video, what makes you feel that this video is cinematic versus just a regular video? They're good regular videos. I mean, what we are usually shooting, my style of, we have a production company and we do mostly commercials. What we do is not cinematic. We shoot videos, and I'm perfectly fine with that. And that's one area of like shooting videos or shooting something basically. But cinema is an entirely different thing, and it has its own look. And when you see a good film, it's a film. You don't, confuse it for a commercial usually. And, it is what it is.
It's closer to how we conceive of images in our brain than, say, a more practical, functional approach to commercial shooting, which is to get across a very, a linear kind of message that we want to get across. But this is we're creating a dream world. We're creating, when you focus on, when you throw the background out of focus, you are creating a kind of a dream world. Some might argue the opposite. Some might say this is actually more like the way we see reality. So you could argue both.
I would again. I didn't watch the entire thing yet.
Yeah.
I'll try and watch. If you have the time, go and watch it. It's fantastic. I mean, the parts that I watched so far are great, and all his videos are really great. But going back to the topic again, I would try and compare high-end commercials to film.
Yeah.
Because this is, I mean, if you compare film to like regular video, it's not a fair comparison, because what you're putting into like a film versus what you're putting into our videos, for example, it's not the same level of like investment and gear and planning, exactly, and lighting and everything. But if you're looking at high-end commercials, they're pretty expensive. I mean, people, like if you watch the Super Bowl commercials, companies are putting like millions and millions of dollars into them.
They're shot more like movies.
Not necessarily. That's the point. I'm thinking that there is a difference. And this difference is worth exploring. Maybe I'll talk to Nicholas and suggest that he will do this specific comparison as a follow-up, because I think that they're actually different. And it's interesting to see how they're different. Maybe I'm wrong, I know. But my feeling is that they're different. And when you have a more level playing field in terms of, like, as you said, the investment or the amount of effort and money and whatever putting into that thing, that is actually really interesting. But yeah, that's, I don't have anything to add necessarily to this, just this specific comparison between high-end commercials and film, and whether or not they're similar or different, and if they're different, how they're different. This will be interesting for the special sauce sort of thing. So I think that with this, we can end this LensVid Talk 32. And thank you, Lou.
Thanks, Ido.
And for all of you, don't forget to subscribe to watch more LensVid Talks and more reviews coming very soon. See you in the next video.
Bye-bye.